Good evening and welcome back to Maximum Attack Rallying. I said good evening, it's actually morning here, but this will go out in the evening, so I thought I would say evening. Apologies, I didn't get to do a third Monte Carlo rally video earlier in the week. It just didn't quite work out. I do want to touch on that briefly. Obviously, I'm sure you've read everything there is to read about it if you're anything like me. I think it's worth reflecting on. I would say that was probably one of the most enjoyable WRC events in recent memory. I very, very, very much enjoyed it. I thought it was just fantastic, wasn't it? The battles all weekend. You know, obviously Elfin was super fast out of the blocks and looked like he was going to be a real threat. But then his weekend went a bit downhill, unfortunately. Then we obviously had the Neuville Ogier battle, which in some ways didn't quite get going as much as we would have liked, but I think there was enough there for it to still be exciting, particularly on Saturday when Ogier just nabbed the lead briefly. It was just a brilliant performance from Neuville, wasn't it? Absolutely brilliant. He can be up and down, can't he? You know, he's a very gritty, determined driver. You can't doubt that about him, but sometimes, you know, his performances, he can go fast or he can crash or just be a bit inconsistent, but this was Neuville at his absolute best, and he will be super happy with his weekend. So yeah, from that perspective, it was really, really good. Obviously, the WRC2 battle was probably better in many ways. So we had Pepe Lopez came from absolutely nowhere on Thursday evening and blitzed everyone on the first stage. And then he was obviously in a fight for the lead all weekend with Nikolai Gryzin, who I actually tipped for the win. And I thought my tip was going to come true. I thought I was going to have a correct prediction for once. Turns out that wasn't the case because Johan Rossell decided to ruin everything by, I think it was over the last 2 to 3 stages, wasn't it, on Sunday anyway. He just, you know, he'd been kind of in the mix a little bit further back than the other two and just blitzed everyone on Sunday and won the category. And was very emotional as a result, you know, I think, and it was well deserved. So I think any of those 3 drivers deserved it, but it was just brilliant, wasn't it? And so the competitive element was brilliant. The atmosphere on Thursday evening was fantastic on that second stage. You know, obviously you had thousands upon thousands of people and the flares and the banners and flags, and it felt like a blast from the past in a way. I think some of the spectator control did leave a little bit to be desired in places. I know some of you won't agree with that, and the drivers seemed fine with it, and I get that, but I think when you've got people hanging over Armco barriers, you've potentially got a little bit of a problem, because if someone hits one of those barriers, the people behind it are going to roll down that mountain. So I think they need to be a little bit careful, but generally, I don't want to focus on that part of it, because, you know, generally it was absolutely brilliant. The atmosphere was incredible, and you know, Monty didn't deliver the snow that we would usually want to see, and I think some people were worried about that, but I think there was enough ice, enough jeopardy for it to just be absolutely brilliant. It was brilliant. It was best WRC round I've seen for absolutely ages. I can't remember one last season that was as good, to be honest. Maybe I've got a short memory, but yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. So that was a brilliant start to the season. Obviously, we had the new point system, which didn't give any benefit whatsoever to Thierry Neuville, who got 30 points, but everyone else scored a little bit more than they would have done if they'd finished in the same position last year. So I'm not convinced. I still think it's a little bit too complicated and a bit unnecessary, and I still think we either should have just had an extra tyre fitting zone before the power stage, or just done bonus points for who set the most fastest times over the whole weekend or something. I don't know. I just think it's a bit silly still. So I think we will leave Monte Carlo there, because the other thing I want to talk about today is media, which is my favourite subject. But we've got some good news relating to the British Rally Championship. And I don't feel like I get to say those words often enough, because a lot of the time there's lots of negatives about the British Rally Championship. You know, it's struggled over the last few years. They relaunched it in 2016 and it looked like they were going in the right direction, and then it fell away again. It seems that they've really struggled to get consistently good entries for the championship, and I think there's a lot of negativity around it. I think a lot of people are a bit fed up, and I think people are worried about this season, and there is, until the season starts, we don't know. But one thing that has come out this week is that the organisers have signed a deal with ITV for coverage, which I think is a huge step. So each round will now have a 1 hour highlights show broadcast on ITV4. This will be a prime time, apparently, though we don't know when exactly yet. That in itself is massive. And then that highlight show will be made available on ITVX, which is their streaming catch-up service. So that, for me, is brilliant news. There are a couple of caveats. I think while this is brilliant and it has, I assume, required pretty significant investment, we do need to be a little bit careful in that I don't want that deal to come at the expense of them still doing stuff online. You need to have good social media. I really want them to improve the live feeds from each event. They should have, live stage feeds and not just stage end interviews. So I would like to see them copying the model by Special Stage, which cover the national championships, of having live feeds from the stages on YouTube. So I hope they can still do that. And I think the show itself, the format of that, is very important. They need to get the presenters right. They need someone who's got knowledge and who can also kind of sell the stories. And speaking of stories, we also need to capture the kind of human element. What we don't want is for this to just be like a voiceover showing a bit of stage action. So-and-so came first, so-and-so came second, blah, blah. That's boring. They have said in their statement that they want to capture the stories, and I really hope they do that, because what you need is to kind of get that human element. I think that was what made, and I've said this so many times, haven't I? That's what makes rally coverage good in the past. It's not nostalgia. It's the fact that they were clever enough to capture the stories from the service park and get in with the drivers and show you the personality and the drama. And that's what's really, really important with creating a good highlights package. So I really, really hope they do that. But overall, I think it's a massive, massive step. So if you take that, you couple it with the fact that they've made a really big drop in the championship registration fees for this year. Some of them have dropped by 60 or 80%. So that is really good. So I really, really hope that this is a step forward. I think the last thing I really want to say before I wrap this video up is, if you are considering your plans for this year and you've got a Rally 2 car or an R5 car, please consider doing the British Rally Championship. I say this so many times. We can blame Motorsport UK, we can blame the organising team, we can blame the media, we can blame everyone for it not being successful, but ultimately the success of the BRC is determined by people entering it. So we as a rallying community have to get behind it. Drivers and co-drivers have to sign up for it in Rally 2 cars and in Rally 4 cars, but also fans, rally fans have to get behind it. We can't spend all our time slating it on social media, which I know I can be guilty of as well. We have to get behind it, we have to back it, we have to support the events, go to the events, tell your friends about it, watch the coverage, because that is what will make it successful. So I would urge you, beg you, in fact, all of you to do that. So yes, we will end this video. I just wanted to keep it relatively brief. Thank you as always for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow me over on Instagram, where I do lots of written articles as well, which you also find links to on Twitter, and you'll find them on TikTok and other places. And I will catch you again in next week's video.